everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Life After Kids with Doctors Brooke and Lynn. I'm Dr. Brooke.
And I'm Dr. Lynn.
Thank you for joining us again for another episode
Of
Life After Kids. Now that I've said it 2 times.
Well, thanks for joining us. Welcome to this discussion. It's a really good one because we are going to go deep, surprise, surprise. But it's getting at these.
This is a Dr. Lynn topic.
This is a Dr. Lynn topic. But I really do feel like it's getting at these deep, root issues that helps you figure out these complex things in your life so you can get past any obstacles and move into the life that you desire.
Yeah. And live a more meaningful life.
And live a more meaningful life. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is finding meaning and fulfillment.
Hit us with it.
Let's go. So I think this came from, I suggest this because it came from a recent period where
a period or a period?
No, period of time. Yes. Thanks for.
We're just coming off of a pre-menopause video, so it's on the brain.
A period of time where literally life was flying by at like Mach speed, right? Do you ever do that? You wake up and then boom, you're like getting ready to go back to bed.
It's happening to me right now.
Right now. I know. I mean, I'm talking recent as in like 3 days ago.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And change things up, because we're recording and
right.
It's not my normal. So, right. I mean, and it's same thing. My husband, would comment on that. And it's, so you're reflecting, you're like, why is that happening? And I don't think that it's that we're too busy. I really don't.
Okay.
Because I think that, yes, we are scheduled and we are doing things, but you can be really busy and still have memories within a day.
Yes.
If you can think about some of the, busiest times when you're working on a project or something that was really fulfilling to you, like you can get back there and you can remember where you were, right? I think that it's because we're not bringing enough emotion and enough meaning into our day.
Do you think it also has something to do with enough variety?
Enough variety. Yeah, I think that it's literally, it takes a combination of variety, being intentional with the emotions, the different variety of emotions.
Yeah,
I guess that's where variety does come in again. And that we're not bringing that in enough in our day to be memorable.
Well, I don't think I
break that down because I know what I'm getting at, but I don't think I said that very clear.
No, I think it was clear, but I can promise you that part of my problem is not a variety of emotions through the day. Because I'm up, I'm down, I'm yes, I'm no. I think there's a song
about that. You're hot and you're cold.
But that's me. You're in and you're out. You're up and you're down. Okay, stop singing, Brooke. Why am I singing all of these recordings?
I don't know.
But to your point about, and the reason I asked you that, do you think it's because sometimes that we don't have enough to do? Because there is some of us who's all of the kids are out of the house and they're maybe feeling like their day's a little slow. For us, it's busy right now. So everyone's different. But the reason why I mention that, it could be age, but I think it's what you're saying is that just these 3 things, because I don't think it's based on busyness. Because, for example, Ken's grandmother, when we moved her up here and she was in assisted living, she couldn't see, so she couldn't do much. So she had nothing that she had to do. And the days just flew by for her. And I've heard many people mention that, like the days are just flying by and they're not really doing anything. So I think to your point, it's more, and that's why I asked about variety.
I love it. Yeah. I think it's the variety and it's the meaning that we attach to the things that we're doing.
That's great.
Right.
And emotions.
And I think when things can be meaningful, like we can be working in something we love, but once it becomes repetitive, then that's where the variety becomes really important, right? It's needing to mix things up and then remembering the why, remembering the emotions around the why.
Yeah, that's great.
Right?
Right, because you can be doing work that is meaningful, but it's not bringing you it's not emotionally attached to you. Is that what you mean? If you lose the emotional attachment, then how beneficial is that?
I think it can be meaningful to you, but then you still get in the going through the motions because
it's just a grind.
It's automatic now.
Yes.
It's not even, it could be a grind, but it could just be that it's like so automatic because you've done it, 365 days times 12. And it's just it's not novel enough for you.
That makes sense.
Right. So that's my first piece of advice. I know a couple of podcasts ago, and this might have been several ago, we talked about code of conduct. Do you remember that conversation, having a personal code of conduct?
Oh gosh, that's going back to
Yeah.
last summer.
Yeah. Okay.
But I can cite that. I'll reference which one that
Yeah,
was, so you
because
can go
in
back
it
and
we
listen if you
talked
want. It was
about
very good.
in it we talked about a way to bring more meaning into your life is by just that simple, like, this is what I want out of my days.
Yes.
I want to be more playful. I want to listen to music. I want to be, romantic or sexy, whatever
Yeah.
that is for you. I gave my example of mine, and I think you came up with some as well. So that is my first piece of advice, is just having that code of conduct, because that will immediately remind you and train your brain to look for ways to be playful, which is the novelty that brings the day into more focus and sharpness.
Yes.
And helps you remember. Because the scariest thing about that whole situation is, like, you're never going to get this day back, and you're never going to, and then, a year from now, even like 3 months from now, you're not going to remember it.
I know.
Right. And you can't have every day as being this, celebration and this big, that's just not life.
No,
Right.
unless you're an Enneagram 7.
Right. And then every
Then
day
you're
it's a
whooping it
party.
up.
And also there's highs and there's lows. So we appreciate the really good times because of some of the mundane days.
Yep.
But gosh, we're sensing that urgency and just wanting to bring that meaning and that fulfillment into our days. So
Yes.
why not have at least one memorable thing in every day?
Yeah, I think that's really smart to point that out. And if I remember correctly, when we had this, actually, I think that was not this past fall, but the fall before, or no, it would have been this last fall. When we talked about code of conduct, regardless of when it was, I remember having a conversation around attaching emotion, the emotion that you want, not necessarily the activity, and that we can. This struck me. I'll never forget it when you said it. That goal setting can be a little bit masculine, and we can bring that feminine piece in when we attach meaning to it. And I think this is part of the
Yes.
conversation that we're having right
That's
here.
how meaning comes in, is by attaching emotion,
Mhm.
right? So if you think about a child's birthday party and you've got your whole family there, and you're going through the motions and you're cutting the cake, and as I'm telling this story, my voice is very one note, right? Versus when you tell a story and you're there in the birthday party, and it's like you've got all the generations, and you can feel the emotion coming out of it. And basically you just get this, your brain starts to go on this
Yeah.
emotional journey with you, and it creates all the chemicals in your body that are a result of those emotions that start in your brain and those memories that begin in your brain, and it floods your body with those kind of feel good things, whether that would be oxytocin, which is the
Yep.
hormone of love, and connection, or
Yep.
what have you, like dopamine,
Yep.
just that little pleasure push that we get. So I think that it's the emotion that brings the feeling.
Yes.
And so we can get into
And brings the meaning.
brings the meaning. You can have two very similar events, and one can be highly charged because there's some good emotion with it, and one can be very mundane and very just robotic
Same or similar
without the
event.
emotion.
And
Exactly.
to your point, I spent most of my, I think this is part of why I'm on such a mission now to live a more meaningful life, because I feel like the years when my kids were little, a lot of times just flew by.
Mm.
I just blinked my eye because I was always so focused on the doing piece of it. Even you just brought up the example of a birthday party. I never stopped to attach emotion or look around and feel the day of like my kid's first birthday, because I was too worried about having the right cake and having the games for the older kids, making sure everyone had the food to eat, making the house clean. I just went through all of those
Yes.
things. It reminds me, I'm going to take this. This just popped in my mind, this scripture where it's in the gospels, and I don't remember which one. I feel like it's in Luke. It might be in all. I don't think it's in all of them, but where Jesus is at, I think it's Lazarus' house, and there's two sisters, Martha and Mary. And Martha's preparing all the food and doing all the work, and Mary is just sitting there at Jesus' feet, just like sitting there with him. And I think she was even maybe putting perfume, but I'm getting somewhere. Martha was like Jesus, what's going on? Why don't you tell Mary to get up and help me? I'm here preparing for all the guests. I'm doing all this stuff, and she's just sitting there at your feet doing nothing. And he said, Martha, I'm only going to be here for a short period of time. Mary has chosen to spend time where she can with me and put her love directed to me, and she's chosen the right thing. And that always strikes
Mm.
me because I'm always the one that's in, not the kitchen, wherever it is, going, come on, we got the stuff to do. Let's go. Why are you wasting time
Yeah. Well,
sitting
you're a
there
diligent
at
doer.
the
I
feet
mean,
of, right, sitting at the feet of whatever and getting the emotion and the meaning around it. But really, that's the right thing. That's the important thing.
yes. And so, you are a diligent doer, so you might be wired for that hardcore execution, getting things
Yeah.
done. But this is really a simple practice. I really think that you can, as Tony Robbins would say, you kind of get into a state of bringing emotion into just even regular mundane things. Do you remember Eckhart Tolle? Did
Mhm.
you ever read his book? Back in the day
No,
when Oprah first came out, I'm not sure that
didn't speak to
he's for
me.
everybody, but I
Not for
remember
me.
reading that book and I always take a little something from
Yeah,
every book
you're great at that. I'm not so great. I am
and,
just
take what applies. And I think that's what you should do with our material as well. By the way, I get a lot
absolutely.
of comments from people and they're like, oh, this one thing struck me or this doesn't apply. And I think, well, how do you look at the overarching message and take what you can? And then apply that because that's true. I think true wisdom and true discernment is just to, be able to look at something openly and say, well, that doesn't work, but this does. Then
Mhm.
I'm going to take this and move on. But in any case, in his book, it really was part of his general theme is just he was so practiced at being present. And the way that he would do that is like, okay, if you're not watching us on YouTube, I'm holding a coaster that I've got right here and I've got an M on there and I'm feeling it. And so I'm literally like training my brain to like feel this texture of this M and I'm looking at all the colors and you're just hyper focused on what you're doing. Okay. That's how he goes into a very dramatic story in that book, The Power of Now, where he was like he describes it a little bit like being catatonic on a park bench for like 2 years in that trance. Like he was so transfixed by the wonder and like he got stuck in that, like where he stayed in it. And it was pretty amazing to read that. I mean, obviously that was not going to be for everybody. But the point that I took from it is that you, even doing something very, very boring like laundry, you can train yourself to be like, okay, I'm holding this piece of cloth and I'm, feel the buttons and what I'm doing and I don't know.
Yeah,
See where I'm going with that?
I know
Like
where
you
you're
can
going.
be deep into, it's almost a meditative practice of being really into what you're doing instead of thinking at other things, being where you're at.
So to me, that's a mindfulness practice.
Yeah.
And it definitely is very helpful for someone like me who struggles with anxiety to bring you back a number 6 on the Enneagram to get out of your thoughts that are going every which
Yes.
way and to focus things. And that's actually one of the tools that a similar tool that I use if I don't really have, knock on wood, much anxiety attacks anymore. But when I did, I would do something to engage a sense. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what you were doing
Yeah.
there. And it might be just rubbing my 2 fingers together. How does that feel? How does it sound?
Right.
What does
You
that
just
look
bring your
like?
senses back to the
Engaging all 5
present.
senses. So I think that would bring, at least for, I'm just speaking for myself, that would bring me back to the present in a mindful situation. And maybe that slows time down, but I don't know that that would help me attach meaning. Like that's
No,
not bringing meaning to my
no,
laundry.
no. I think
Oh, this towel, it feels so nice on my skin, and I'm so happy to be
look at
here.
these
I'm
pretty
gonna
buttons that
remember
light
folding
up.
this laundry for the rest of my life.
Okay, well, you're right there.
But
I
it
guess
does.
if you have repetitive things that you have to do, I guess at the end of the day, if you're practicing just maybe thinking gratitude in that time,
Yes,
being mindful, you're right. I do think it's a mindfulness practice, but attaching something outside of what the
what it is you're
rote
doing.
automatic thing it is that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do think if we're talking about just time getting away from us and you blink and the day is over, which is how we started this conversation, that type of a practice is huge to slow things down and bring you to the present moment.
Yes.
And if you're doing that now in the midst of something that could be really meaningful, maybe like outside of laundry, let's take that aside. But if you're at the birthday party or you're at, if whatever it is, and it could be it if you're just your kid's home from school and you're having a
Ah,
conversation, it could just be a conversation because you're trying to make dinner too. But if you would take the time to slow down and really pay
be in the
attention
moment,
and look at them closely and
look
look at the
into their
features on their
eyes
face.
and
Yes, or
yes.
just take a moment to touch them.
It
How does that
creates a
feel?
memory. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when your senses are engaged, that's when your brain is going to store at least short-term memories.
Yep.
It's going to be something at the end of the day
Sure.
that you can very quickly put yourself back into that.
And that's probably why, at least for both of us, we've talked about this before, when music is involved, it
Ah, oh,
makes
for
it more
sure.
wonder. That's why,
Yeah.
because we're engaging that sense, that
Same with food.
auditory sense, and yes,
Yes.
smells
Tastes,
can
smells. Oh
can
my
make
gosh.
everything just
Pull you back, right? Isn't it? I hate when I smell something and you like, because smells are harder to place, like sounds, music. I think you can like, oh, that was the movie or that was the year. Like they just automatically, or maybe it's just me, but do you find sometimes you'll smell something, you're like, what is that smell? Where's that from? And you're like, it
yes.
bugs you. It's like on the tip of your
Because
tongue,
you
but you
can't
can't come
figure
up
out,
with
it's
it.
reminding you of something that you
Yes.
don't. Whereas I could hear a song and know exactly
Yes.
where I was in my dorm room, exactly what
Yeah,
year moving back into
exactly. Isn't that
college.
funny? What color your hair was?
Right,
Like,
a Dave Matthews song.
yeah.
Except this is, I can't believe I'm gonna share this because it's so
Oh
weird, but
goodness. Now
talking
you
about
have to.
smell, I do have to
Oh
now.
gosh. Prepare yourselves, ladies.
Right, I'm gonna ask this and you're all gonna say, "No, this is so disgusting," but does anybody else love the smell of coffee breath? It's the stupidest, like, anybody else would be like,
Really?
"Go brush your teeth," and
That's just because your husband drinks like 8
no,
cups of
I'm gonna
coffee in the
tell you
morning.
why now. This is the point of what I'm getting at, because my grandmother, who is like one of the most important women in my life, my dad's grandmother, because she just loved me unconditionally. It
Oh.
didn't matter what I did. And I can just remember sitting on her lap or her holding me, even older, even almost in high school and curling up on her and smelling her coffee breath. And I loved it. It was not
So
an ew.
that
It
was
was just
a
like
great
and
example of
anytime
reframing.
that was, I don't know why, but that I'm attached to that
Yeah,
positive memory. Is
that's
that's so weird that it's coffee breath, but I'm saying there are scents that can take you back too.
even bad ones for
Right.
or what some
End
people
up
would
being
think.
good things,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I love that.
But isn't that, but to your point, maybe I don't know, would it have stuck out in my mind as much of like sitting with her on her lap, or that day that I was having the hard time, if I didn't attach those other pieces to it? Like
Mhm.
the smells that were there and the way
Yeah.
she was, do you know what I mean? This
Mhm.
is, I think, the point that you're saying.
Yeah.
When you engage the senses in it, you have a tendency to remember it more.
Yeah. Yeah, your brain definitely captures and stores memories around engaging those all
Yeah,
of those
the
senses.
senses.
The other thing that you can do to bring more meaning into each individual day is, and we already said it once, but we'll give some examples, is to do novel things, do
Mhm.
new things, right?
New things.
Now we can't all like win a lottery every day or, get crowned Miss America. So how are you going to find novel things in every day? Well, here's some examples. Like, and actually, you might laugh at these at
Why can't
first,
we
but
be
these
crowned Miss America?
every single day. But putting your socks on. So if you usually like put them on right foot first, I never wear socks, but for those people that do, or pants, like
Which is so
switching it
gross, by
up.
the way. Wear socks.
No, I don't wear socks, but I know it's a big point of contention with my husband and my daughter for that matter. But like just doing something different, it absolutely is a pattern disrupt. Driving to work a different pattern,
Mhm.
a different way. Um, Driving home a different way, using the mouse with the wrong hand, with the other hand, like little things like that that challenge your brain,
Mhm.
create new memories, create new pathways, and help you to bring some meaning and memory into your day.
So you shared this in the membership community, and the women there were thanking you for it because it's a simple and practical thing, an easy thing to do, but it can be really powerful. Like, that's a great tip.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah. Do new things. I
I'm
love it.
just thinking about how that could play out in my life, bringing in more variety, because it could also be bigger things. It could be,
I mean, ideally it would be,
yeah,
right? And
but if you don't
those are going
have,
to be the days you really remember. I mean,
yeah,
you're not going to say, "Oh my gosh, last Thursday was the day I put my pants on right foot first."
I remember that day well. The sun was shining in the sky.
And I reversed the order of how I
Right,
put on my
right.
pants. No, but I think the point is the more that you engage in that, the more that you are awake and conscious and
Right.
not
Makes you feel more
on
alive.
an autopilot.
The
Exactly.
day
And
is a
so,
little less dull,
and then if
maybe.
you're right, and then if you can find those bigger things, like here's some great examples, like eat on your deck. Like that's so simple. Eat
Take out your
outside,
china.
right? Take out your good china. I love it. Drink champagne on a Tuesday,
Oh,
to
this is so
celebrate,
fun.
right? Um, what else? Just take a walk,
Sing
go
in the shower.
backwards, go different route, sing in the shower. Love that. Um,
Don't wear any clothes to bed.
your
I
husband
don't know.
probably like that.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know why I went to like eat dinner in your underpants, but that's weird. Going to bed with no clothes is probably not bad.
Coffee breath.
Especially if you still have kids in the
Coffee
house.
breath
Do
and-
not do that.
That's a great one for the empty nesters. But yeah, well, and yeah, if you are empty nesting, have fun with that. Where we're
Right?
going there, but
Right.
do
Lighting
novel
another light,
things.
even for me, just something as simple as lighting a candle.
Love it.
Especially like we're in summer now, so it doesn't mean as much. But when you're in winter doldrums too, or you're just having those days that they run in together,
Yes.
just lighting a candle in the evening, dimming the light, setting a little bit of ambiance, it just gives a little more meaning. It makes the day feel a little less dull.
Yes, that's
And I think
and
that's what
that's
we're
what
looking
you
for
are
here.
looking for. You want to be able to go to bed at the end of the day and have 3 wins for the day. Like
Mhm.
at least 3 wins, right? And it's just those days that it's like, oh my gosh, what did I even do? And you're struggling with having to come up with that. That's where it's like it's never a fail, but it's okay, tomorrow I can do a little bit better.
Yeah.
I can do something just a little bit different. Like, I snuggled with my dog for an hour and that felt so good, and whatever it might be that brought a little bit more meaning and a little bit more fulfillment, a little bit more intention into your day.
I love to start my day. Well, I don't start it because I do a couple other things before I get there. But once I get to the point of enjoying my hot cup of tea, which is like something I really look forward to, I use a different mug every day. And all my
Yeah.
mugs have like a positive affirmation or a phrase or script or something. And it's a great way to start. Once again, it's not the very start of my day, but for me, that just sets me. I don't know. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
something little
it's
and
a
maybe
good
silly
tone.
for you guys, but that's just a
Yeah, I do
little
that
bright
too with
spot.
my Starbucks mugs, and I go to the cupboard and I'm like, okay, where am I going today? Today I went to Cabos.
And you have all those from places that you've been, so then you
Right.
can
Then
also
you can
remember where
remember
you
the
were,
travel. Yes.
which is really great.
Yeah. So, ending that day, that's a great way, a great practice to really start your mind into looking for opportunities to get these things done in the day. Because remember, your brain hates a contradiction. So it's always going to look for ways to make what you say and what you put in it, put in motion,
Actually happen.
to actually happen. So
So
end the day with your 3 wins and then think of 3 wins for tomorrow. And I think that came from the book, The Gap in the Game.
yes, I've
Yeah.
spoke about
I
that
have
before.
to
We've
give
had conversations. That's
Dr.
a
Cindy
really
Hardy and Dan Sullivan credit for that one.
yes, and that book is a fabulous book if you haven't read it, and it's in our Amazon shop. I'll link it in the
Great.
show notes. But yes, ending your day with 3 wins, 3 things, and then finishing that also with what you anticipate the next day is huge. It's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, that's such a great book because it helps you to reframe where you're at. I think we have a lot of discontent at times at this phase in our life, and it's helping us to reframe, not looking ahead to where we think we should be
Yeah.
at this phase, but actually measuring our progress and our success and our wins as people by how far we've come.
Mhm.
And that is just a healthier place to be, is to stay in that gain, that stay in the place where you can see the progress and just feel accomplished from that.
Right, as opposed to always needing to get to that
Compare.
next thing, and sometimes we chase an ideal, and I remember him saying, "An ideal is an ideal for a reason because it's not
You're
attainable."
never gonna
So
possibly get
yeah, so sometimes, but I imagine as a piece to this conversation, and feels like an overarching theme for these 2 days that we've been together filming, um, attaching some gratitude to your day too, even
Yes.
in the mundane, seemingly small things, when you can be grateful for it or flip the script if it feels like something, like let's go back to the laundry. Like, it could be, I'm so grateful if kids are still at home or you have a spouse that you're helping out, that I have a family that I can do the laundry for. I'm so grateful that I have running water because there are people in this world that still don't.
That's where,
Or do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and that's where, once again, this was the overarching theme that what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right.
yes, I love that. Yeah,
So
and that practice of gratitude, you've heard it before. We bring it up, obviously, but it's so often repeated for such an important reason. It's because when you not just only say you're thankful and do lip service, but you bring your whole body into that and you make it feel that gratitude, that will flood your body with that beautiful oxytocin,
Yep.
right? Hormone, and give you those feelings of meaning and fulfillment and remind you of what it feels like to be alive and to be connected and to be loved. It's a beautiful way to get meaning.
It's very powerful. And once you train, what you might have to do that as a practice, but once you do it, your brain will automatically start to look for those things.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
so that's a big thing for anyone, I think, feeling a little lost or stuck or like they're in the
Start
blahs or
there.
doldrums, is
Yeah,
just
just
starting
start
there.
there.
If you could just
It's a
find
lifeline,
Mm,
honestly. It's a
yes.
lifeline.
Finding, I think, 1 or 2 things to your point that are out of the ordinary for you, even if it's something small, and then finding 2 or 3 things to be grateful for through your day. If you just started there and built from it, I think it could have a huge I know it would
It's
have a lasting
it's
impact.
positive momentum for sure. And
Mhm.
that's the road to follow to get there. So my last point is just, I'm reading Viktor Frankl. Just starting it.
I saw
A
that on
Man's
your
Search
table. I
for
can't
Meaning and
believe you
Purpose.
jumped into that.
I don't know why, but you know how you just something speaks to you and it just keeps coming up and
Yep.
surfacing. And it's I guess it's something that I'm being led to read right now. So but basically, I haven't read the book, so I can't give all my notes from it, but in knowing I'm going to read this, I was researching this a little bit, but he was in a concentration camp,
Yep.
Nazi concentration camp, and this was an Oprah book years ago, years and years ago. But through his experience, basically, it was a whole segment of like psychotherapy and behavioral cognitive therapy that came from his work
Mhm.
called logotherapy, and it's basic. Basically, it's what he says, and through his work, is the daily choice to choose our emotions. And we often let our circumstances, so where we are, we're sad because our kids are gone, we're sad because we're getting older, time seems like it's fleeting. We let those circumstances dictate how we should feel. Instead, how can we create the feelings that we wish to experience more of despite our circumstances? So we can't control our environment, but we can control our
We always go back to
inner
this.
feelings. And we know that because of just a gratitude practice,
Mhm.
right? We could be in jail, locked in whatever kind of jail that is, an emotional jail
Yeah.
or physical jail.
Yeah.
And you can practice gratitude and you can have those emotional feelings well up in you.
Mhm.
It's much more difficult to
Yes.
do, but it can be done, and we do have control over that.
Agreed. That's so powerful. And I know somebody needed to hear that. And
I
once
hope.
again, you can't control your circumstances necessarily or where you are in life, but you can always have agency over yourself.
Yes, and that's what we need to keep in mind. And Tony Robbins does that beautifully with, getting into state,
Mhm.
right? And you can change your state very quickly.
Mhm.
And again, just some practical things. So, what can you do from the meaning point of view? You could create something or just do a good deed. So, in our membership community, we talk a lot about, points and tips throughout the month, just a random act of
Yep.
kindness,
Something you can
right?
do
Just
daily.
opening up the door for somebody and just smiling broad, or
Huge.
helping a mom who's struggling with her 3 kiddos, get them inside a store, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it might be,
Or
just
just open the door and hold it for them.
yes, yeah, just looking a salesperson in the eyes, right? They have so many people and it feels very transactional, just actually
Yep.
having those human moments. Um,
Texting a friend you haven't talked to in a while.
Texting a friend. Yeah. Anything else that you can think?
Oh my gosh, about just like little meaningful things that you can do through
Yeah.
the day.
Because I'm trying to read my writing
Buying
here.
somebody's coffee who's in line behind you
Love
or
that.
ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
That's
nice
such a good one. That's such a
Mhm.
good surprise when that happens. So this is basically a summary of Frankel's work. So creating a work or doing a deed, which we spoke about, experiencing something. So those goes back to those novel things
Yep.
or encountering somebody. So that was where texting somebody,
Yeah.
pick up your phone, and just the attitude that we take towards our suffering is not inevitable. So yes, we might be suffering, but there are ways that we can I know it's tough, but there are ways that you can still reposition, reframe, look at the positive,
Absolutely.
look at what is right, and stay in that
Stay in that.
wherever
Yeah.
you can.
And anytime you mentioned random acts of kindness, anytime you take the focus off yourself and put it on someone else by helping them out, even if it's something simple, it makes the day a little better and makes you feel a little
And
better.
so much more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
How good,
100%.
how good do you feel when you
Oh
do
my
that,
gosh.
right?
There's nothing else quite like that.
And by the way, that's a purpose right there. So often people jump to the, well, do I need to get a new job? Do I need to start a business? You can make your life's purpose about being a blessing to others by just changing the tone of their day by a random act of kindness
Mm-hmm.
with, as many
Wow.
people as
Imagine
you
if we
can,
made that our purpose
right?
collectively,
Bringing
what a
joy and a
difference
blessing to
the world
people
would
by
be.
just being kind.
100%.
Yeah,
I think that's a great place to stop.
I think so too.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you're following us on all the feeds, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, lifeafterkids.com to get all of our free resources and take the purpose quiz. Thank you for joining us. Cheers to making the days ahead very meaningful.
If you stuck it through this episode, which I hope you did, I hope you take away some things there that are like super practical, and yeah, just make every day count.
Yes.
Yeah, make
And
them.
don't do that by having dinner in your underpants.
And Dr. Brooke likes coffee breath.